What's going on, everybody? It's Game Unboxing Reviews here, and welcome to my top 5 things that I want to see in a Spider-Man video game. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I talking about this? Well, apparently there's a new Spider-Man video game on the way. Now, this is just a rumor at the minute. I don't know if this is true or false. All I know is it's got me excited because I love Spider-Man video games. I've loved all of them, if I'm honest. I mean, most people, there's a lot of people that don't like certain Spider-Man games, and I still tend to enjoy them because any excuse to get to play as, my favorite superhero of all time, I'm in, because it's Spider-Man. It's just awesome being able to play as Spider-Man. But this one could turn out to be a really good game, so I'm really excited about this one if it is actually real. So I've decided to share what I think makes the perfect Spider-Man game. Now, these are just my personal opinions, my ideas. A lot of you might not agree with them, some of you might, but I just figured I would share them because I would just love to see all of this in a Spider-Man video game. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so this list is in no particular order, and up first we have costumes. So costumes are a huge thing in the Spider-Man video games. It's never enough to keep Spidey in his default costume because there's over 50 years of alternative costumes. Why wear a movie suit when you could wear 2099 or Noir or Black Suit or anything like that? There's just so much variety. And even when it comes to the movie suits, I mean, sometimes they give you suits that have been in other movies, like in The Amazing Spider-Man. I loved how they gave us the Sam Raimi suits, both the red suit and the black suit. I thought that was great. So it would be really cool to see more of that in the near future. Now, the thing I have, though, with costumes, I've always had this problem, is that's just it. That's all they are, is just costumes. They just give you a different appearance. Yes, they give you the occasional health or damage to enemies improvement, but that's about it. So what I suggest is that costumes actually give you new abilities. So let's say, for example, you choose the Iron Spider suit. When you wear this would give you a much quicker climbing speed. So basically, with the arms on the back, it would just make you climb much faster than using your hands. That would be extremely cool. And as well as that, it could also give you an extra advantage in combat. So you could use the spider arms on your back to take down your enemies. Little things like that I think would make a big deal to the game. I mean, it could be small, just little animation changes when you're wearing different suits, but it'd be cool, seeing Spidey actually fight with the arms on the back. I just think that would be awesome. Like, take the black suit. The black suit, there's tons of stuff you could do with this. So, let's say, for example, the game has a webbing feature where you can actually run out of webbing. Well, when you wear the black suit, there is no running out of webbing. You have unlimited webbing, you can shoot as many webs as you want. As well as that, you can have super strength, which allows you to pick up heavier objects than usual. And just for fun, a disguise feature. Now, I'm not sure if many of you will know this, but back in the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, Peter could change his clothes on the fly by simply using the symbiote. I mean, it could be anything from, say, a 3-piece suit to looking like Aerosmith. Yes, that's right, Aerosmith. It was just such a cool moment in the show, and personally, I think it would be an amazing addition to a Spider-Man video game. Now, currently, I can't really think of a purpose as to why you would have that in the game. I mean, it could maybe be to do with, say, stealth or something like that. But for now, I just think it would be fun, being able to switch clothes much quicker than using the backpack. But more on the backpack later. So one of the things that I've come to realise is that New York City is one of, if not my favourite city to explore in any video game. I mean, it's always enjoyable to revisit that iconic location, and it's especially cool to see both the similarities and the differences in each video game that it appears in. However, most of the time in Spider-Man video games, all we seem to do is swing around and stop crimes, which, don't get me wrong, is extremely fun and never really gets old. But I do feel, especially for the Peter Parker side of the game, the city has a lot more to offer. Yes, it's called Spider-Man, you're supposed to be able to swing around the city and stop crimes, but I think there's a lot more that they could add to the game than just that side of it. So my suggestion is to add more things to do in the game, allowing Peter to have more to do than just stopping crimes and saving people. So what I've decided to do with this is mainly focus on Peter Parker for these ideas, but I do go into a lot more detail on what Spider-Man can do a little later on in the video, so definitely stay tuned for that. So first up we have hanging out. You should be able to participate in a variety of different activities by yourself or with Mary Jane, Gwen, or even just Harry, You should be able to take MJ and Gwen to a date on the movies, you should be able to go bowling or to the arcades with Harry, and much more. There's a lot you should be able to do with Peter's social life. He's got MJ, Gwen, and Harry, and he should be able to spend time with them. He should be able to, just have fun because they're friends, and we never really see that side of them. We see the cutscenes and things in games. We see, oh look, there's Gwen, there's Harry, but we've never been able to actually spend time with them. The closest we've probably gotten to that is those web swinging races with MJ in Spider-Man 3, the love ones. That's probably as close as we've got to hanging out with friends. So, you know, hopefully one day a Spider-Man game will give you, you know, that much freedom with Peter's social life. And last but not least for this list of things is getting around the city. Now obviously Spider-Man is fast, he's very, very fast, so he doesn't need a taxi or anything like that to get around the city. But when you're playing as Peter Parker, you will need that kind of thing. You know, yes, he could just get into his suit and swing around the city, but I think it would be cool to have optional taxis, trains, ferries, cable cars, heli rides, and boat trips. They could allow you to get around the city as Peter with ease, visit areas like Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty, take land and sea trips across New York, and allow you to see, you know, just everything the Big Apple has to offer. Now I'm going to go into more detail on the taxi a little later because there's more to do with that than what I've just mentioned, but I just think there's a lot to do, you know, in New York City besides stopping crimes and saving people. So I would love to see, you know, more of that explored in an upcoming Spider-Man video game, whether it be the one that's rumored or something in the near future. So next up is interiors. Now, there are many interiors that I'd like to see in a Spider-Man video game. There would definitely be shops, banks, friends' houses, the sewers, the subways, etc. There's tons of places that you could be able to go. But the three key interiors that I think we need are Aunt May's house, Midtown High School, the Daily Bugle, and if this game just so happens to be set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then obviously Avengers Tower. So let's go through why I chose these three interiors. So first up is Aunt May's house. So say what you want about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game, but something that I've always wanted to be able to do is walk around Aunt May's house as Peter Parker. And that game finally made it happen. So hats off to Beanox for adding that to the game, because when I saw that in the very first trailer where they showcased the free roam, that blew my mind. It was just such a cool thing to see in the game. But with my version of Aunt May's house, there is a lot more that you can do. When you're downstairs, Peter should be able to talk to Aunt May, sit down on the couch or any of the chairs, watch TV, or even just get a drink or something from the kitchen, which when you do that, would also refill your health if you've actually lost any. Now upstairs, however, you should be able to replay story missions, change clothes and costumes, and use the computer. Now the computer would probably have the same functions as the phone, but more on the smartphone later. Now, as well as that, you would also have sleep. This is something which I think would be pretty cool. So when you sleep, it allows you to both save the game, but also advance time, letting you choose your preferred time of day. So if you want to swing around in the daytime, you can do that. Or if you want to swing around the nighttime, or just walk around, you know, in the nighttime as Peter Parker, you can do that as well. I think there's a lot of possibilities, you know, when it comes to being able to change the time of day. It's always cool seeing, you know, a day-night cycle, and the game could probably have that, but it would also be great if you could actually choose the time of day yourself. You know, having both a day and night cycle and making the time of day optional to you would really please a lot of players, you know, both sides of it really. So now we're moving on to Midtown High, and one of the most fascinating things about Peter Parker is that he goes to school, he does his homework, and he's a vigilante. And that's something I've always wanted to see presented well and true to the source material in a Spider-Man video game. Now, I'm not sure if this would appeal to many of you, but I just think that being able to actually go to classes as Peter Parker would be a pretty neat addition to the game. They could just simply be little mini games where you answer questions, solve puzzles, etc. But I just think that it's such a huge part of Peter's life, so why shouldn't we be able to experience it? It's the same like I was saying before about how you should be able to hang around with Mary Jane and Gwen and Harry. It's such a big part of his life, his social life and his school life, so why shouldn't we also be able to experience it? Now, I also think it would be interesting to see if there are consequences for missing class. Nothing too serious, but we all know that Peter is very rarely on time. However, I'm well aware that for many people, especially me, honestly, if that just carried on forever, you know, you were swinging around the city and then you got in trouble for missing class, it would probably get extremely irritating. So just make the consequences optional in the game's options menu. Next up, we have, of course, the Daily Bugle. Now, my personal favourite video game recreation of the Daily Bugle is actually Spider-Man 3. Now, while I do love how it was presented in Spider-Man 2, it was just much bigger in the third game. And honestly, I think I spent a lot more time in that version than I did in Spider-Man 2. Now, the Daily Bugle, while being a decent sized interior, would have just one purpose. Yes, you could perhaps use the computer or get a drink or snack from the vending machines to refill your health, But obviously your main reason for being there will be to get photography missions from J. Jonah Jameson. Now personally, I don't think any Spider-Man game has really perfected the idea of photography missions. I mean, I would love for these missions to always be random and never stop, allowing you to take pictures for JJ whenever you want and as much as you want. I mean, there could be moments where you have to take pictures of Peter as Spider-Man, special events like John Jameson returning to Earth, taking pictures of a recent crime, and maybe even just pigeons in the park and a couple of geezers playing chess. And finally, for the interiors, we have the Avengers Tower. Now, like I said before, this idea only applies if the next game is a tie-in to Spider-Man Homecoming. So thankfully, Marvel has been keeping very quiet when it comes to Spider-Man's involvement in Captain America Civil War. However, with Tony announcing Underoos in Trailer 2 and the recent announcement that RDJ will be in Spider-Man Homecoming, I think it's pretty safe to say that Peter and Tony will become very good friends in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, not a lot of ideas come to mind when I think about the reason as to why you should be able to visit Avengers Tower, but obviously it would be filled with Easter eggs, and just being able to visit that iconic location as Peter Parker or Spider-Man would be pretty surreal. Now, I could be wrong, but it seems very clear to me that Tony has made Peter Parker's suit in Captain America Civil War. So why not have him be the go-to upgrades guy? Perhaps you want your suit to take less damage, or you'd prefer to have a much less chance of running out of webbing. Then Tony Stark will be the ideal guy to go and see. Moving on, we're now going to be talking about random crimes. So something everyone looks forward to seeing in a brand new open world Spider-Man video game is random crimes. However, ever since Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3 and Ultimate Spider-Man, random crimes has just been dropping in quality, and especially the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now personally, I don't think you should be punished just for wanting to casually swing around the city in your favourite Spider-Man costume. But if so, then at least make something like the Task Force an option for the player, because eventually it becomes extremely irritating and you just don't want to play the game anymore. So with a new Spider-Man video game, the random crimes need to be fun, varied, optional, and completely unlimited, allowing you to stop them or ignore them as much as you want. Pretty much exactly like Spider-Man 2 on the PS2. I mean, that really did have random crimes perfect. It was absolutely perfect, and we need to see exactly that again, but even better if possible. Now, you also shouldn't have a little cutscene that plays after every bad guy you stop or person you save. Just have them say thank you or whatever, and both you and the NPC can go back to whatever you were doing before you met them. Now, tons of ideas come to mind when I think about what random crimes could be added to a new Spider-Man game. You've got, of course, muggings, where you defeat the muggers and give the civilians their wallet or purse back. Store robberies, where you stop the robbers and give the money back to the store. Bank robberies, where you stop the bank robbers and give the money back to the bank. Gang fights, where you defeat all gang members in the area. Police shootouts, where you help out the NYPD and stop the shootout. Sinking boats, where you save the civilians before their boat sinks. Burning buildings, where you save the civilians from the burning buildings. Car chases, where you have to stop a car chase. It could be like Spider-Man 2. One of the things I liked about that was sometimes it was a criminal, and sometimes it was just someone speeding. I always loved that idea of, you know, maybe it's not a criminal, it's just a person speeding. So I would love to see something like that return in another new Spider-Man game. Now, as well as that, we also have helicopter chases, where you got to stop the helicopter chase. And finally, boss battles. This is something which I loved in Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't know if many of you have played it, but basically, when you're swinging around the city, you might come across Boomerang or Shocker, and they're actually robbing a bank or something, just in the middle of the street in free roam. And I just loved that, being able to actually see a classic and iconic villain just wandering around the city, minding their own business and causing trouble, was just so cool. It really was. So imagine being able to have boss battles in a brand new Spider-Man game. Imagine you're swinging around the city and all of a sudden Shocker's robbing a bank, or Rhino's smashing the city, or Scorpion's causing trouble, or Vulture, you know, is trying to get your attention. That kind of stuff would be just so cool. And again, maybe it would get irritating, you know, having Rhino always bothering you when you're just trying to free roam around the city. But it could also be optional. Just turn it off in the options menu and boom, it's gone. But I just personally think that would be an awesome and really exciting addition to the game. And last but most certainly not least, the final idea of today's video is the backpack. Now, there is a lot to get through when it comes to just this idea alone, so let's just get right into it. So first up, bandages. Obviously, Peter isn't invincible. From time to time, he's gonna get a few cuts and bruises, or worse. So what would a young teenager who was also a vigilante have in their backpack? Bandages. I'm pretty sure that Aunt May would eventually notice the damage dealt to Pete's body, so it would probably be best to cover them up. This would both affect your appearance, but also speed up your health revival system. Now, I have taken into consideration that not everyone wants to play as Spidey with bandages all over his arms and legs, so to make up for that, there could be an option to turn off the bandages, meaning that they will still heal you, but they won't appear on the suit. Next up is the smartphone. Now the smartphone, like I said before, plays a big role in the game. So it plays a big role especially in both Peter and Spidey's life. So with Peter, obviously he has his family and friends such as Aunt May, Mary Jane, Gwen and Harry. Not to mention JJ, who you could call to ask if he needs any pictures taken or just to tell him that you have the photos that he asked for and that you're on your way. With Spidey, however, I believe the smartphone could be used to call the Chief of Police for information on a case, or even a fellow Avenger or Defender for whatever reason. It would be great to get some cameos if this is Spider-Man Homecoming, the video game. I mean, it would be awesome to see not just Iron Man, but other characters as well from the MCU. That would be awesome. Now, next up is taxi service. So as well as that, Spidey doesn't necessarily need a fast travel option. The speed he goes when swinging through the city is fast enough. But when out of the costume, how does Peter get from, say, Queens to the Daily Bugle? He phones a taxi, or he gets on the train like I was talking about before. You know, you've got trains, cable cars, you know, there's loads of ways of getting around the city. But when you call for a taxi, once it's arrived, you just select your destination, pay the driver, and then choose whether you want Peter to sit through the whole car journey or just completely skip it. Pretty much exactly like most games you see nowadays where you can actually, you know, take a taxi and it will take you to a destination. Exactly like that, really. But I just think it'd be really cool to have that option from your smartphone. Now with calls alone, there's just unlimited possibilities. Those are just a few ideas that come to mind when I think about how you could call people in the game. But obviously, you know, if there was an actual developer working on this, they would probably add so much more cooler stuff to it. Now next up is the weather app. So besides phone calls, Peter should also be able to check the time, day, and what the weather will be like. This would also be in sync with the actual in-game weather. So if the weather app states that it will rain at 12 o'clock, then it will rain at that time. As well as that, you could also read up on the Daily Bugle's blog page online, or even just play a mini-game to pass the time. There's tons of ideas that come to mind when it comes to having a smartphone in a Spider-Man video game, but for now, I'm going to leave it at that. And last but most certainly not least, the final thing that we're going to be talking about in today's video is the alley feature. Now the alley feature is something that I've wanted to see in a Spider-Man video game ever since I saw the first Spider-Man movie back in 2002. As soon as I saw Peter run into that alleyway, get changed into his rest of the Spider-Man costume, and swing off to catch Uncle Ben's killer, I always wanted to be able to do something similar to that in a Spider-Man video game. So the way this could work is pretty simple. Basically, whenever you're in a private area during free roam with no one around, you can change from Peter Parker to Spider-Man and vice versa at any time. You can do this in an alleyway, a rooftop, Peter's bedroom, or the bathrooms of Midtown High and the Daily Bugle. Now the way you change is done by taking off your backpack and choosing which suit that you want to wear from the suits that you've unlocked. There could also potentially be different things for Peter to wear, like perhaps a coat or a hoodie for when it is raining, little things like that, but honestly that kind of stuff isn't really necessary. It's just a cool little addition that could be added to the game. But the alley feature in general is just something I've always wanted to see. I mean, as you can see, you know, the backpack alone could add so much to the game. There's so much you could do with Peter having a backpack, being able to call your friends or call a taxi, being able to change suits on the fly. Tons of possibilities with just that alone. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I mean, that's my top 5 things that I would like to see in a Spider-Man video game. Let me know if there's anything that I've missed that you would also like to see in a Spider-Man video game, because I would love to hear about it, because the rumor of a new Spider-Man game on the way has got me so excited. You know, anything to do with this game, I can't wait to hear about, because I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Alright guys, so I want to thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for lots more videos real soon, and as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.